I remember having lunch with the CEO, with the bank president at the time, and my current boss, Gil Pomar. One of the questions was, how do you live this faith in family?
You asked him that?
Yeah. I asked him, how do you guys live this? And he goes, look, if this position is the most important thing for you in your life, you're probably not the right person. Now that's impactful, especially in an industry like banking. It's the little things, right? Because, and I say that to some of the associates that I have here, kind of your age, right? And your generation is, doing the little things right will add up to bigger tasks, bigger responsibilities. And so if you're not doing the little things right, like organization, right? It's very easy to get derailed.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Leaders Talk Podcast, where I'm your host, Jacob Giron, and I interview leaders from every industry, from business leaders to athletes to coaches to pastors to the people that you admire most. And my job is to uncover their stories so that you can take a piece of everybody's success and apply it to your own. So if that sounds like something you like, feel free to subscribe and enjoy the rest of the video. But today I have a special guest. I have the regional president for Miami-Dade / Monroe for SouthState Bank, David Pruna. Thank you for taking the time, David.
No problem. Good morning.
So quick facts about David and the bank. You hold an MBA from FIU. Previously worked with Chase and Wells Fargo.
Yeah.
And SouthState has around $40 billion in assets.
Yeah, that's right.
So you see the caliber of the bank that it is. So that leads me to the most important question you ever be asked. Coke or Pepsi?
I mean, if I have to choose one, it's Coke.
You're the first person to say that. That's interesting.
Yeah, I try not to drink soda. I gave it up several years ago. So,
yeah, it's a little addicting.
And plus, my uncle used to work for Coca-Cola. If I said anything else other than Coke, he'd probably slap me around a couple times. Yeah.
So now that we know the most important thing about you, I want to start from the beginning. High school graduate. Did you know this is the position that you wanted?
Like many out there, and I hope this gives a voice to a lot of folks out there, I actually had no idea what I wanted to do.
In high school, you had no idea?
I had no idea. Just being completely transparent and honest, you have ideas of what you kind of want to do and want to evolve into. However, life has, its way of kind of leading you in different paths, right? Yeah. High school, I worked for my brother's business, which was a formal wear store. Just helping out around the store, kind of doing odds and ends, throughout high school. And one, in a formal wear store, you do formal wear for weddings and proms and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. And we did a wedding one time for a family name of de Armas, right? The mother of the groom, her name was Marta de Armas, and she ended up loving the way I provided service to her son and the wedding party and things of that nature. And what you don't know about Marta de Armas is that at that time, she was a regional president for Bank Atlantic. It's no longer around. It actually got bought out 2 times over. If you follow the acquisitions, it ended up today as Truist along the way. Yeah. And she tells me after the wedding party's done and everything is done, they return all the formal wear, the tuxedos and whatnot. She comes back and she says, "You know what? I love the way you kind of you helped us in your service. What do you think about banking?" I said, "I don't know. I haven't thought much about banking." Yeah. Right? Yeah. And she's like, "Look, I'd love for you to come by and have a discussion, and you can start off as a teller, and we go from there." And so that's kind of how I landed at 18 years old in the banking industry as a peak time teller at that time for Bank Atlantic.
So you really worked your way up, because...
Yeah, it's been a blessing. I've really worked my way up from peak time teller to full time teller to assistant branch manager to working, in the commercial bank over at Wachovia at that time, which is now Wells, which is where I met your father. And I've kind of had the ability to work my way up through the entire, to where I am today.
Yeah. So do you think there should be such a stress and emphasis on how important it is to know what you want at an early age? Do you think it's as important as people make it seem?
I don't think it's as important.
Why?
because you don't want to be pigeonholed into one particular, industry or career.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, I'm a big believer in faith and where life takes you.
Mm-hmm.
And so that pressure can oftentimes turn, a young adult off,
Yeah.
And so that might, that might not lead into what you're forcing that, young adult into.
Yeah, that's interesting. Because there's a lot of
Mm-hmm.
value. Because hey, you know what? Like if you figure out what you want to do early, you're gonna set yourself up better for life. And I like how you said that.
And you know what? It works for some, and for some it doesn't, right?
Yeah.
So that I think that's just from experience,
Yeah.
On my end.
Yeah. And kind of highlighting your MBA from FIU.
Mm-hmm.
Now, second question of education: do you think the value of a degree still holds the same weight as it did back then?
That's another great question, and you could debate this either way. I think it does. I think it depends on what you want to do in life. Obviously, doctor, accountant, engineer, attorney, those in finance, mergers and acquisitions, whatever that might seem that you're going to need that for, absolutely. But to kind of bring up one of the people I look up to, Mike Rowe. I don't know if you heard of Mike Rowe.
Yeah.
Dirty Jobs. He's done a lot
Sounds
of things.
familiar.
Yeah, he's done a lot of things. He's like not everybody should. Not everybody is right for college. Not everybody is right for a degree. There's a lot of technical jobs out there that are extremely high paying. That that it may not be as fancy. When you think you and I talked about social media,
Yeah.
you're not going to be posted on social media, but are you going to make six figures? Absolutely, and consistently. It's a need. It's a necessity. And so it really depends on the individual. But it's for me in my path. I've kind of swung from left to right, right? I wasn't a lot of emphasis on academics early on.
Mm-hmm.
Then as I matured and I understood that this was going to be my career, I kind of paid more attention and more of an emphasis and more of an intent on getting my degrees.
And what age was it that you started taking education a little bit more
I
serious?
think around 23, 24. So, probably a little bit later on,
Yeah.
Went to FIU early on in my college career. I was in a fraternity.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of bounced around. I was in full-time, work, employment, and so I had to help out, my parents and family, and so things bounce around. So nothing is as direct as one would like it to be, right? And so when I went through that, and as you mature, you kind of start seeing the importance of different aspects of life, education being one of them. And for my career, I kind of needed to go back and solidify that, right?
Yeah.
So I went back, got my undergrad, I went back and got my MBA. And you go along and just not with degrees, but certifications in your career that help out and things of that nature, right? So, that's kind of been my path, from my experience.
Do you also think, like you said, you kind of went back to get your undergrad and then MBA?
Mm-hmm.
Do you think it's ever too late to still continue with your education?
No, it's never too late. Because it goes back to maturity. It goes back to where you are in life, right? You see oftentimes the commercials on TVs where it's this university or that university and that graduate, and it doesn't look like you, right? Younger, right out of 18 to 22. Life is not like that, right? And for a lot of it, and that's the hope as a parent, to give you guys the opportunity to go on through and finish, but not everybody has that opportunity. And so it's never too late if that's what you want to accomplish. For myself, I was the first one in my immediate family to graduate from college and get my MBA, and my brother, who's a little bit older, followed suit thereafter, right? So,
So it all just depends.
It all depends.
On the person.
It all depends on the person.
But
and the situation that you're in.
Yeah. But definitely the professional, if you have a profession that you want to get into.
Yeah, if it's a professional career, it requires an education that goes beyond being said. Yeah.
So I want to highlight now. Like you said, you went from Chase to Wachovia, now Wells Fargo, then now to SouthState.
Yeah.
A lot of people will say, or you went from Wells Fargo to Chase. A lot of people will say, you know what, you had the job at Chase, it has a bigger name, has a reputation, has everything, right? Why leave that position, the national bank, to come to SouthState?
That's a great question. I don't know if we have enough time, but I'll tell you this. Every bank that I worked for had its purpose for my life, professional and personal, right? Mm. Whether it was Bank Atlantic, whether it was Wachovia, whether it was Chase, and now SouthState. Leaving Chase was not an easy decision. It was not. It is a phenomenal brand. It offers phenomenal opportunities for employees, for their team members, and for their clients. However, for myself, going back to my original comments of where you are in life, maturity, what you want to do, and what do you want to carve out, mm-hmm. I felt that going to a community bank, which is where I originally started my roots at Bank Atlantic, in a smaller community bank, you can make more of an impact on your community. It's all about community. You can make more of an impact on your people. Without people, without community, you have no bank. Without people, you have no small business, no entrepreneurship. You've got no bank. So it all boils down to people. And so I got to a point at Chase where I felt that the opportunity for me personally to make an impact on the community that I was born in, mm-hmm. and I was able to grow up in, that's kind of where my decision was made. It's never an easy decision, leaving a group of individuals that you've grown with, that have given you opportunity to grow with. But, again, everything in life changes.
Yeah. And to add, you were there for 10 years. So you had a promising future. The brand.
Absolutely. Yeah, had a good future, had, kind of things laid out for me. I continue to grow with the company. But, you want to leave a mark. And I felt that my mark, me personally, and professionally, I could do it at a smaller institution.
So you think the risk was worth the mark?
Yeah.
Or the mark was worth the risk?
Well, it was worth the risk. You never know if it's worth the risk until you're in it, right? But the biggest risk in life is not kind of taking a risk, right, from time to time. And when you make decisions, you want to make sure you have the right mentors. You want to have the right voices. Mm-hmm. You want to have the right opinions. Or ask the opinions of the right people to make that decision, right? Yeah. And it was a lengthy process in the decision making, right? Mm-hmm. But it's been worth the risk, absolutely. I'm surrounded by phenomenal leaders, starting from our CEO down to my direct leader, and the people that I serve, because I serve my team members. That's what I do here.
What are some of the things that were telling you to stay at Chase?
Comfort. You'll find often that when you're comfortable, you don't want to rock the boat. You don't want to change. But you got to be very conscious and just of where you are in your life, and where you want to grow. And mm-hmm. I found that often that your growth comes when you're out of that comfort zone. Mm-hmm. Right? And that's kind of where I made, that decision. Do I want to stay here and just be comfortable the rest, just status quo, or do I want to, leave a legacy, leave a brand? Yeah. And I had the potential, right? And I had the right people around me, starting by my wife, my children, my brother, my mentors. And so when you take all that into consideration, right, by the way, not all the opinions are going to be good. Not all the opinions, are going to be positive.
So you don't take all the opinions. You don't.
Yeah, I think you got to take them all. But at the end of the day, you've got to come back and, in my case, put it in prayer, and see where that leads. Yeah. Right. And have faith.
Yeah. 100%.
And you grow when you're out of your comfort zone. And I wanted to grow, and that's, I had done everything I could. I left it all on the table for Chase, and it was time to take everything that I've learned and kind of grow within that.
Yeah. What were some of I know you said comfort was the thing keeping you there, mm-hmm. but what was another doubt was there any doubt transferring into SouthState?
You have.
How'd you overcome it?
You have industry doubts, right? Oh, you go into a smaller bank, they're not really well known down here. Is there a commitment to Miami? right? It's a Winter Haven bank, right, in Florida, Central Florida, doing business in Miami. Are they committed to it? Are they going to support you? Are they going to look at you? Oh, we got Miami, but we really don't want to do business there. Those are all industry, and experiences that you have in the banking industry. And so those were the hurdles that I had to get over mentally. And I, asking the right questions from leadership here at SouthState. What were their, what was their future? What were their core values? Another reason why I decided to come over here and just, I knew their core values. I knew that we were, faith and family. We were local market decision making. Things of that nature that were so important to us. And me personally.
Yeah. A question popped into my mind because let's say someone listening right now, they're deciding the same decision that you made. I want to have more meaning. I want to have more purpose, more, like you said, I can have more impact here and feel more purposeful. When transferring over to whatever industry, whatever company it is, and they see the core beliefs online, they see that they preach about it, how do you know if they're really about the core beliefs?
Great question. You got to ask. Got to ask the decision makers and see what they say. And how, the body language speaks volume. I remember having lunch with the CEO, with the bank president at the time, and my current boss, Gil Pomar. And one of the questions was, how do you live this faith and family?
You asked them that.
Yeah, it's one of the core values. It's the core value has evolved a little bit more to greater meaning and purpose, just to encompass everybody. But I asked him, how do you guys live this? And he goes, look, spare you some of the things that were said, but he goes, if this position is the most important thing for you in your life, you're probably not the right person. Now that's impactful, especially in an industry like banking, right? Where it's produce, and then you could do your family thing. Now, the reason why we do the things that we do here is that so we can enjoy our community, we can enjoy our family, we can enjoy the things outside of the work, right? Yeah. And so you have to ask the tough questions. Ask the tough questions and sit back and see not only the answer, but in the way that it was answered. Yeah.
That's impact. I felt that.
I'm glad you did.
If you're in this is the most important thing, it's probably not the position for you.
At that point, and you're not talking about, and not to downsize any, but you're not talking about, you're talking about a position that is, I run a $1 billion plus size bank here, right, in Miami-Dade, Monroe County. When I heard that, I said, this is the right place for me,
And that's how you know. Just asking the tough questions. I like that. So now I want to do a halftime break. I usually play a game, so I'm going to say a word or a phrase, and then you have to respond in one word. Whatever comes to your mind.
Yeah, you got to think about that one.
So, starting off, banking. One word, whatever you feel.
Serve.
FIU.
Home.
Family.
Everything.
2008 financial crisis.
Scary.
Wells Fargo.
It was a team.
Let's see. Education.
It's important.
And SouthState.
Leadership.
I like that. So, what does a day-to-day schedule look like for you? For the people out there that, I'm considering getting into the banking, what does a day-to-day schedule look like?
Yeah, it looks different every day, which is what I love, right?
Yeah.
I was actually having this discussion with my kids yesterday. They started a new school and things of that nature, and it said one of the things that makes the difference between ordinary and extraordinary is organization, right? Your organizational skills. Mm-hmm. You could be the smartest person in the world. You could be the most talented person in the world. If you're not organized and ready for that day to tackle that day, and not for that day to tackle you, it's not going to translate. Yeah. Right? So, it starts off, probably around 6 a.m. Just going through my emails, seeing what I got to tackle, organizing it from a standpoint of, what's coming in that day, right? Yeah. Because I try to set up my appointments a week ahead of time. And your father will probably tell you that because that's what we were trained. Yeah. At least a week ahead of time, right? Take control of your calendar, take control of your day. And so, that's what I try to do each and every day. My people come first. Our clients also come first. So anything that might have to do with removing hurdles and mountains that may be standing in front of my team members, right?
Yeah.
So removing hurdles on a daily basis, allowing them the opportunity to serve our clients in our community. And so that's kind of what my day on a daily basis revolves around. You have your conference calls, you have your Zoom meetings, but at the end of the day, when I wrap up my day, I ask myself, what did I do today to help somebody out, to get to where they need to be, whether it's a team member or a client. Yeah. And so that's a very nebulous answer, only because my day isn't the same every day, and most times it isn't my day. It's their day. Yeah. People are trying to get on my calendar. People are trying to get with me on meetings, and ask questions, and nonprofits and clients and prospects, and so it's really how can I organize myself so that they have my time for them to be successful, which in turn is going to make me successful.
Yeah. So you talk about a lot the core values, like people. Mm-hmm. Like without the people, there would be no bank, and so forth. The more that you progress in your career, the position that you're regional president, you get more status, you start closing more deals, everything. Mm-hmm. How do you stay true to the core of the people and the mix of like going up and up and up?
I don't know if you've heard this before, but to me, it's all about my faith, right? Yeah. God first, and God says serve others, right? Before yourself.
The golden rule.
Mm-hmm. That's it. It's that simple. Look, and there's days where you fall off the wagon, right? There's days that, it didn't go as well as you wanted it to. Mm-hmm. Or maybe I didn't give the attention to such and such person. But, you got to reflect, and then you got to be intentional, and then you got to tackle the next day and make sure you come back around.
Intention. Right? I like that.
Yeah. Intentional is a word that today it's...
Misuse, you think?
No, it's not misuse. I just don't... There isn't enough of it. If I can.
So what does intentional look like?
Being intentional, being in the moment, giving that person in front of you the time and the attention that they need, and being intentional about your actions and the words. Because again, going back to your original question of the bigger you get or more the more you progress in your career, how do you stay true to the core? It's all that kind of comes together.
Yeah, I like that. So now I want to talk, actually, since you talked about intention, I want to talk about discipline. Mm-hmm. Obviously, it takes a lot of discipline to get in the position you're at.
Yeah.
It's a given, right? You can't just make it to a position just cruising. You have to be disciplined and set yourself, sacrifice some time. But what does discipline look like to you?
It's the little things, right? Doing the little things right. Mm-hmm. Because, and I say that to some of the associates that I have here, kind of your age, right, and your generation, is doing the little things right will add up to bigger tasks, bigger responsibilities, and so if you're not doing the little things right, like organization, right, it's very easy to get derailed, right? So I think that's
so emphasize on the little things and compound that.
Yeah, just your daily task. Just a daily task to to projects, to requests from leadership, requests from your clients, the little things, showing up on time, discipline, little things, right? But nobody's watching. That's another thing. What are you doing when nobody's watching? What are you doing when you have time on your hands? Is it easier for you to just go on IG, or is it harder for you to decide, I'm not going to do social media right now. Let me concentrate on something that's going to make me better, right?
So do you think picking the hard is always the right? Like when you have a task, like you said, you have time on your hand. This is harder, and you don't want to do this.
Yeah.
You think that's the right?
That's the right thing to do, right? It's not the flashy things sometimes, right? It's the mundane and boring things, and we live in a society where it's all flash. We talked about that earlier, right? But the discipline to do the little things right, timeliness, mastering your craft, focusing on what's going to make you better, not only today but down the road. It's hard. It's hard to be that disciplined, right? That's something that's core to who you are, and it doesn't cost anything, right? You don't have to buy anything. You don't have, these are all things that we've known innately, so, as we grow. But our attention is being pulled in 20 different things, 20 different ways.
And now everything is, our attention span, I think I was thinking about this earlier. Our attention span is getting closer and closer and closer, from reels to all that stuff.
It's tough.
So your attention now, at least for the younger generations, like, if it's not instant, if it's not this.
And Jacob, listen, it's not only the younger generation, it's my generation and older. It's easy to pick up the phone, and like I tell my boys, my kids, I said, man, I didn't grow up with this. And while it's powerful, it also takes away. And if you don't have the discipline to use it for your betterment, it'll distract you, and you'll get derailed, right? So, those are just the thoughts that come to my mind,
Yeah. No, I agree 100%. It's funny how you said that, because I was only thinking the younger generation, because I was like, who uses reels and all that stuff, mostly.
Right. Abuelita's on Facebook probably TikTok. A lot longer than you are.
No, I saw my grandfather the other day on TikTok. He sent me videos on TikTok.
My point exactly. What is exactly?
But it's funny.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, kind of to wrap it up, I think the audience and I've seen the leader that you became, right? You didn't just get into the position. You didn't get here by accident. It was like you said, being intentional, being disciplined, creating your schedule, staying true to your core, and sticking along that for years, right? It's not just overnight. It's been 10 plus years getting into this position. So now I want to talk about SouthState. So before it was CenterState. CenterState, sorry. Mm-hmm. CenterState did a merger with SouthState. Mm-hmm. What was that merger about?
Both companies were very like-minded. Mm-hmm. Both companies were core value driven, right? Mm-hmm. They were mission driven. We grew as institutions very similar. Mm-hmm. And at the top of the house, there's always conversations. You meet a lot of people, and you build relationships, just like we're building relationships now. And so, when you're two very healthy companies, and you want to kind of just grow to be able to provide for your community, for your clients, for your team members, your employees, you kind of make that decision. It's like, hey, we're probably stronger together. Right? We're stronger and better together. Let's bring our two like-minded companies so that we can serve our communities better. Right? And that's kind of what it is. And banking it's a fickle industry, man. It's right now, talk about the 2008 crisis. I think there was 6,000 banks at that time. Now there's less than 2,400 banks. So when you've got something special, you want to keep that going. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's important to find like-minded partners, and that's what, in my opinion, we did. Yeah. We found like-minded partners in SouthState and the merger of equals, and kind of brought these two companies together with great leadership, long-time leadership, trusted leadership, and we brought them together to provide for our clients and our communities and our team members.
Yeah, the reason I ask you that is because there's a lot of mergers happening every day within bigger companies, same size companies, always happening. And I feel sometimes it isn't asked, like, of the people that are part of that merger, hey, like, did that change any of your day-to-day operations? Like, does your core value, does anything change? So that's why I think it's interesting. That leads me to the ribbon on the box that we're presenting. Like I said, I definitely throughout every question, throughout everything, we could see the leader that you became. I don't think you were the 18 years old David Pruna.
No chance.
Wasn't the leader that you are today.
No chance.
Like I said, you were, and you got, actually, I would say, not luck, but the opportunity of the woman approaching you to, hey, have you ever thought about banking? And that kind of gave you like a foot in the door, which now you're in the same position that, or higher than what she was. So now, the ribbon, finally, you go back a lot to faith. And the core values, faith, that you pray, that to stay true to who you are, you pray. Why is faith so important to you?
It's kind of like your North Star, right? It's your compass. Keeps you pointed in the right direction. It's very easy to believe in things, material things and stuff like that, but material things, look, you buy the Rolex, you buy the Mercedes, you buy that, you're happy for that moment, right? I think for me, and everybody has their own personal journeys, you know, so that you gotta internalize that. But for me, it's about, you know, I find my joy in serving others, my wife, my kids, my family, my clients, and that's the number one, like we said, the golden rule is from our faith base is serve others, right? And love others like you love yourself or as your neighbor. And so, you know, that's why it's so important to me. It's putting others first, helping others kind of accomplish and fulfill their capabilities. That makes me happy, and it brings joy. Happiness is for the moment. Joy is for a prolonged period of time, in my opinion. And so that's why it's so important to me.
I like that. Your North Star, compass.
I've told my bosses too, and my leaders, and I said, look, I don't take this personal. I know you're my boss or my leader, but I don't work unto you. I work unto God, right? And so, if you're working for a higher purpose, everything you do kind of falls into place. You know.
I like that. Everything falls into place when you have that.
Yeah.
I like that. Well, thank you for the time. I think
my pleasure.
You said that was a final ribbon, and I hope you guys learned something. I definitely learned something about being intentional. How important. Although you said it wasn't important to know what you want at a young age, I think when you do know what you want, and
then you tackle it.
Then you tackle it.
Absolutely.
I think that's what I got from this: being disciplined, being intentional, all the things. And I really enjoyed this. Hope you guys enjoyed it too. And if you guys did enjoy it, feel free to check out the clips on the Instagram. I'm going to tag you in your LinkedIn and all the URLs, everything. But thank you so much for your time.
My pleasure.
Anything else you want to leave off on?
No, just do good for others, man, and everything will come back to you. I guarantee you. You know, and it might take a little bit of time. Don't get frustrated. Just keep plugging forward.
Perfect. Yeah. Thank you guys so much for watching it, and see you guys on the next one.